Hi, everyone.
Hello again. In the last segment, Ray had finished this particular subhead with this quote, very telling quote from the Watchtower, May 1, 1981. Let the honest-hearted person compare the kind of preaching of the gospel of the kingdom done by religious systems of Christendom during all the centuries with that done by Jehovah's Witnesses since the end of World War I in 1918. They are not one and the same kind. That of Jehovah's Witnesses is really gospel, or good news, as of God's heavenly kingdom that was established by the enthronement of His Son Jesus Christ at the end of the Gentile times in 1914. So the Watchtower has tied its gospel to an event in time, 1914, and admitted that nobody has preached this before, and we would venture are about to leave it. At least the 1914 connection. If the world goes on much longer, they will have to abandon it. So this gospel is very ephemeral gospel indeed. So in this section, he examines that gospel and puts it beside the original good news of the New Testament. So the subhead is the original good news or an altered version, ? Ray says, even more crucial than the previous factors discussed is the issue of whether the good news of the kingdom, thus preached, is the same good news of the kingdom, preached by Christ and His apostles. We have a clear presentation of what Jesus' apostles understood to be the good news. If one will simply take the Bible account and read the book of Acts and the various writings of the apostles, the contrast between their expression of the good news and that spoken at the doors by Jehovah's Witnesses is notable.
The Watchtower message focuses on a good news that deals overwhelmingly with concerns about negative world conditions and the hope of early relief from the problems these bring through the entrance of a
Perennially
at hand new world directed by a new heavenly government.
That unquestionably has great appeal, since it is normal for human nature to feel more immediate concern about existing external pressures that bring nagging difficulties. The thought of a government is predominant in the mind of witnesses when they think of the kingdom, and their view of that government is notably similar to that of modern governments of our time. The Watchtower Society has, in fact, published both articles and talk outlines drawing parallels between the kingdom and such governments, depicting the administrative, legislative, judicial, and educational facets in both, including evidence of the kingdom's being a functioning government since 1914 in its providing and administering written laws and providing an educational program to its subjects, as also the ability to finance such a program, and even comparing the present population subject to that government with the population of various small countries.
It seems remarkable in this connection that Watchtower writers can fail to see that their organization has done the same thing that they condemn in other religions, notably the Catholic Church. An article in December 1, 1984, Watchtower, for example, speaks critically of Church Father Augustine's equating the kingdom with the church on earth, and quotes this summary of the effect of that teaching. Quote, through the ecclesiastical hierarchy, Christ is actualized as King of the kingdom of God. The area of the kingdom is coterminous, is that how you say it? Coterminous, meaning having the same boundaries with the frontiers of the church's power and authority. The kingdom of heaven is extended by the mission and advance of the church in the world. End of quote.
Yeah, this is virtually identical with what the Watchtower organization has done. And in the minds of its members, quote, seeking first the kingdom means essentially supporting, being submissive to, and working for the expansion of the visible organization. It boasts of the growing population within the frontiers of the organization, and plainly expresses the view that their submission to the organization and its governing body equates with submission to Christ as King. it constantly applies to itself messianic prophecies originally spoken to the nation of Israel, God's, in their words, typical government. In the January 15, 1988 Watchtower, for example, we read on pages 16 and 17, quote, "Joyfully they cry out, you have added to the nation, O Jehovah. You have added to the nation. You have glorified yourself. You have extended afar all the borders of the land." That being from Isaiah 26, verses 12 and 15. In 210 lands around the earth, Jehovah continues to add sheep-like persons to his spiritual nation. Hundreds of thousands of new associates are being baptized. More kingdom halls and assembly halls are being built. Watchtower branches are extending their Bethel homes and factories and are adding printing equipment. The growth is continuous.
And then the same article continues, this expansion comes because the Prince of Peace is directing the affairs of God's people on earth. As Isaiah states earlier in his prophecy, quote, "To the abundance of the princely rule and peace there will be no end, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, in order to establish it firmly and sustain it by means of justice and by means of righteousness, from now on and to time indefinite. The very zeal of Jehovah of armies will do this." And this was quoting Isaiah 9, verses 6 and 7. How grandly those words have been fulfilled today. And that's the end of the quote.
And Ray says, as the article itself states, the fulfillment is seen not in truly spiritual aspects, but in numerical growth, which brings more persons under the organization's authority, and organizational expansion in properties, buildings, and equipment. Augustine's equation of the kingdom with the church is paralleled by the Watchtower's equation of the kingdom with the earthly visible organization. Yeah, so he has to acknowledge, as he does later in this chapter, that to do this successfully and to make it stick with your propaganda machine, to make people believe it, you've got to find texts, and you find your text in the Old Testament. Isaiah's text here about nation and about government and about expansion, that is physical expansion. You can't find such texts in the New Testament.
No.
So we wanted to link on your screen to some analyses we've done in the Paradise Lost series, which is under the playlist Who Really Are Jehovah's Witnesses. But we'll link you to the first Paradise Lost video about Micah chapter 4, where you have government and kingdom connected, but you also have locality and land. And it's instructive to see where those localities and lands are. And then you have a couple of videos also linked from the Daniel series. We did a detour in the Daniel series to Micah again, and so there's two connected Micah videos in that series, and I think you had a summary, the title of one of them?
Oh well, I
Maybe not.
well, I don't think I could read it right now.
Well, it links the kingdom to the restoration of the nation, that is the restoration of Israel, and the localities are very obvious in the text if you read the text. And the reason we picked the Micah is because that particular chapter of Micah is not only where you find the glorious picture of the ultimate kingdom blessings of all the nations of the earth coming up to Jerusalem, to Zion, to get the blessings, but it's also got a year text from Micah chapter 4, verse 5, I think it is, where it talks about the national identity of a people that will bear the name Jehovah. And guess who it is? So we'll put that link on your screen as well. And next time, the carnal or sensual nature of the Watchtower's good news.